Over 100,000 people had been evacuated throughout southern Alberta. 5 people lost their lives, more than $5 billion in damages, and 55,000 square kilometers of land directly impacted by the floods. That's nearly 70 times the size of the city of Calgary. So here's a timeline of what happened. June 19, 2013, a storm system brings torrential rains to southern Alberta. By the very next day, June 20th, 100 millimeters of rain had already fallen and is set to double. That, combined with the melting snowpack in the Rockies, leads to dozens of evacuation orders and states of emergency from north of Calgary, south to Lethbridge, and west to the Rocky Mountain parks. By June 21st, highways are washed out by mudslides. Homes, fields, and roads throughout southern Alberta are drenched. In Calgary, the Zoo, Saddle Dome, and Stampede Park all underwater. At the height of the emergency, the Bow River is flowing 8 times its normal rate, the Elbow 12 times, and the Glenmore Reservoir straining with 7 times its normal outflow. Then, June 22nd, the sun comes out, the rivers start to recede, and people return to survey the damage left behind. It's not until July 4th the city of Calgary lifts its state of emergency. In all of that, there are stories of devastation, loss, resilience, and community that are forever etched in the minds of everyone who experienced it. Pouring through hours of footage from 2013, we think it's time to reconnect with some of the faces of the flood.
So I was sent out to cover the building of a berm at 4th Street and Elbow Drive, and so it was the Safeway parking lot we set up. Non-stop, truck after truck after truck, and they were building this berm precautionary. Got there about 4:30, and at that time it was a warning, yeah, there's a chance we might have to evacuate parts of the downtown. And by 7 o'clock that night, it was the downtown get out of town.
And about 7 p.m. we got the knock on the door to evacuate. The town people said that it was just a precaution and not to worry. We should pack an overnight bag and that we should be home the next day, no problem.
I went to the Peace Bridge and I stood there and kind of watched the water rise that night, and it kept coming up, and the Peace Bridge was high enough that I don't think it was going to be in jeopardy of being washed away, but everything around it wasn't, and the water was just sort of starting to trickle into Memorial Drive and washing kind of over Princess Island Park. And I was pretty shocked. I thought this is a big deal.
It was dark, and I could just make out the level of the water, but I could hear it. And I've never heard the Bow River so angry and so loud before.
I don't think any of us thought that that extent of water could actually come. It was like Niagara Falls coming through the city of Calgary.
It's come over the banks, and it's coming into downtown High River, and it's going to be full on, right? So, like we'd never seen before.
On top of the water, it looks like you can see it moving, but underneath, the force is just unreal. And the fact that they can move vehicles is powerful.
Some of the homes were like 2-story homes, and you could only see their roof.
Global said, run nonstop, forget about commercials, just send the chopper out, gas it up when it needs gas, and keep it out there. So I think we began to realize, and once you saw, when you saw the Saddle Dome and all of the downtown underwater, then you knew, okay, this is a massive story. And then when the chopper went to High River, unbelievable. Then Jamie was doing her iPhone reports from Canmore. It was like, this is the story of the day, and we need to be on it, and let's give people what they need to know, show people what's going on.
Military aircraft, going over, scanning the situation, and multiple helicopters, jet boats, doing rescue efforts at that time.
The one boat that came in, just a little frail lady, and her husband was in there, and I would kind of look at her and I'm like, here, instead of walking through the water again, I'll just help you out. So I picked her up and kind of gave her a nice little smile, and she's like, the last time I was carried like this was on my wedding night. I think with all the devastation that was happening, that smile gave people a glimmer of hope to keep going on, that there is something to look forward to in the future.
Seeing the aftermath, like the amount of garbage, and not just garbage, but just debris that littered the riverbanks and the neighborhoods. And once the water started to come down, we watched communities come together and clean up.
Walking into the house and seeing the destruction and just having all those smells and visualizing the different colors of mold that I didn't know existed.
One of the saddest moments was a family dismantling a piano, a family heirloom piano, and they're taking it apart piece by piece. And I asked them, why wouldn't you just push this out the door and garbage it on the street corner like everything else? And they said, well, it is garbage, and it's going to the garbage, but we're just slowly taking it apart because it means too much to us to sort of just let go.
I heard on the radio that if you want to help with the cleanup, the City of Calgary is inviting you to come meet at McMahon Stadium in an hour's time.
We ready to help out our neighbors?
So I went over to McMahon Stadium, and of course, the pictures are famous. There were thousands and thousands of people there.
There were some incredible stories. I mean, the hippos that got out, right? And you know, some firefighters floated a sea can. They found a sea can floating by. They actually pushed the sea can with one of the boats and pushed it up against the doors of the enclosure for the hippos.
I remember going down to the Stampede grounds and sitting with the leadership of the Stampede and saying, guys, it's 2 weeks today is the parade. Downtown is closed. I don't know how we're going to do this. And I think that was the first time I heard, come hell or high water, we're going to make it work. And 2 weeks later, I rode my horse at the front of that parade down streets that had been flooded and closed 2 weeks earlier. And I thought to myself, this is such an incredible symbol of the power of community, of the power of volunteerism, and the attitude we have in Calgary that we're going to get this done.
It was a completely overwhelming experience. It changed all our lives. There's no question on that. High River's done, it'll never come back, all this stuff, and yeah, that's where I bow up a little bit and watch this. Hold my beer.